I did unmute myself. Good morning. My name is Ellen Chase, and I'm the Financial Vice President of CVB. For those of you who don't know me, I've been a member for 30 years and served on the board in various positions, including religious trustee and treasurer. I raised my daughter in this community. I want to thank those of you who joined us Thursday night for a deep dive into the budget. Your comments and questions were welcome. The two takeaways that I want you to hear in my presentation today are: one, CVB is financially stable and in a good position to move forward in these uncertain times. And two, we need your participation to stay in that position. Next chart, please. Okay. I've been fortunate this year to have a committee of strong individuals with diverse backgrounds monitoring our finances to assure that the board is meeting our fiduciary and fiscal responsibilities to the congregation. I want to thank all of them for their dedication and participation throughout the year. If you're interested in joining us on the finance committee, reach out to Elizabeth and she can help get you involved. Now let's talk about this year. Over 40% of our revenue comes from membership commitments, and another 25% comes from the generosity of our donors. That makes 2/3 of our funding is from you, which is why it's important that you turn in your membership and donation commitment forms early so we can plan and budget accordingly. Notice that this pie chart hasn't changed much over the recent years. We have a winning model and we've stuck with it. As you would expect, in line with our core values, 50% of our expenses go to supporting the activities of our clergy and our education programs. We have an amazing administrative team led by our executive director, Elizabeth Gaines, who is ever vigilant to make sure our expenses are in line with our revenue. As I said, we are financially stable, and I want to thank the people before us who were fiscally responsible and put us in that position. We have a dedicated clergy management team and staff, and so many volunteers that make this such a special place. Our membership has remained constant at about 800 families. So as people have moved away or died, our amazing leaders and staff, Mariella and Laura, thank you, have brought in new families with new energy and interests. During the first 2/3 of the year, CVB was buzzing. Activities on site and around the community, holidays, life cycle events, education, caring community, social action, mitzvah day, the list goes on, culminating with the very successful Purim After Dark. And then COVID came and quarantine. CVB pivoted to reinforce social connections with physical distancing, reaching out to our community through alternative mediums, including Zoom and Facebook Live. Although we could have no on-site activities, our online programming was enhanced with a myriad of new programs to keep the community connected. The preschool had to physically close, yet our teachers and staff stayed engaged with parents and students. Our Jewish learning programs moved to online platforms, from Torah study to religious school, Milton, Sunday Morning Live, were all offered online. And even with Elizabeth's conscientious scaling back and reducing our expenses by up to $100,000 over the last 3 months, it wasn't enough. The payroll protection program made a difference. With the help of Montecito Bank and Trust, we were able to secure a loan which has the opportunity to be 100% forgiven, to help cover personnel-related and some building expenses starting in mid-April. Due to changes in that program, we will be able to use these funds into the coming fiscal year. As a result, no one was laid off, and everyone began thinking outside the box on how to best serve our community. A year ago, we thought we would have a revenue of $3.4 million and expenses of $3.37 and $60,000 for building reserves. But we were impacted by a difficult fourth quarter. As a result, we are projecting that the revenue for the fiscal year ending 2020 will be just over $3 million, and the expenses will be basically $3,270,000, leaving us a deficit of $242,000. In addition, we still plan to make the contribution to the building reserve of $60,000. Just as an aside, if you looked at our balance sheet, you notice that unlike business balance sheet, we do not depreciate our fixed assets. Instead, each year we move funds into our building reserve. So although it looks like a $300,000 deficit, the PPP loan allowed for almost $59,000 for us to reallocate our funds. So the balance you see here is part of the PPP loan that we can carry forward to cover some of those personnel and business and building costs into the next year. As a result of this, we did not need to dip into our reserves, and we're doing great. So let's talk about next year. In order to build a budget that we're proposing, we needed to take a realistic look of a yet uncertain future. This budget is predicated on a modified on-site programming at CBB to resume by the end of the calendar year. We're making plans right now to have a modified opening of the preschool in July. There is no, when you get your membership commitment, you will see there is no increase in the suggested membership commitment levels for 2021. And in February, the board approved an increase in withdrawal from our endowments from 2.5% to 4%. This puts us more in line with comparable nonprofits and what they're pulling from their endowments as well. As a result of this, we came up with a balanced budget that has a revenue of $3.19 million. Now, this is a 7% decrease in revenue from last year's budget and a 5.4% decrease in expenses. And due to the uncertainty of the future, we did not include a contribution to the building reserve at this time. So we need your support in sending in those membership commitments as soon as possible so we can know that we can meet this budget. So at this point, the board has approved the budget as presented, and on behalf of the board, I make a motion for the congregation to approve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Because this is coming from committee, no second is required. The motion from the Finance Committee is on your screen. Any questions from the floor? This is the time to use your Q&A button.
Diane, there was one question